The first time I saw her, she wasn't floating in a hangar or basking under spotlight ceremonies. She was in pieces, scattered across an abandoned dry dock on the edge of the Kuiper Belt, like the bones of a giant no one wanted to remember. They called her Vanguard, the last human warship to ever breach the Treaty of Rigel. The ship every alien council in the galaxy swore would never be rebuilt. Back then, I was a captain without a fleet, dishonorably discharged for disobeying a direct order during the Epsilon campaign. They said I'd compromised interstellar peace. What they meant was I'd killed too many of the wrong species' ships to be politically acceptable. They didn't care that those same ships had been burning human colonies to ash. I didn't care either. The day I found her, the Kuiper Belt station was almost dead. Power flickered like a dying candle. The walls carried the echo of nothing but cold air moving through empty halls. And there she was, gutted, stripped, her armor plates stacked like coffin lids, her engine cores removed. A ghost of war, hidden away so the galaxy could pretend she never existed. I ran my hands over the blackened hull plating, feeling the faint ridges where alien plasma fire had melted the composite. I knew the stories. Every officer did. Vanguard had ended the Torlan Wars in 3 hours. Not because she outmaneuvered fleets, but because she erased them. Erased entire planetary defense grids before the enemy even knew she was in range. The ship was a weapon so devastating that the Galactic Council drafted the Rigel Treaty just to ensure humanity could never build another like her. They'd buried her here as an unspoken warning. Touch this ship, and you'll make every alien power in the galaxy your enemy. I was already used to enemies. That night, I went to the old quartermaster's office. The man sitting behind the counter was missing an eye and had the sort of stare that came from watching too many friends die. His name didn't matter, only that he recognized me. "I heard they sent you packing, Captain," he said, lighting a thin roll of synthetic tobacco. "Heard you still got that itch." "I'm going to bring her back," I said. He didn't even blink, just stared at me through the smoke until a slow grin crawled across his face. "You're out of your mind," he said. "Good. It took 3 months just to get her power core shipped in secret, 5 more to restore the spinal railgun, the largest mass driver ever mounted on a human vessel. Every bolt we tightened, every circuit we soldered, felt like another step toward treason. The Galactic Council didn't just ban Vanguard. They banned her schematics. Even touching her was a death sentence. But the news out of the outer colonies kept getting worse. Raids. Civilian ships disappearing. Alien warlords who didn't give a damn about treaties because they knew Earth was too afraid to retaliate. That's when I decided Vanguard wouldn't just be rebuilt. She'd be reborn. The first time I fired up her reactor, the entire station trembled. The sound wasn't just noise. It was the kind of deep, resonant power you could feel in your teeth, in your bones. The bridge lit up in cold blue, the displays cycling through long-forgotten targeting protocols. Her AI core, supposedly erased decades ago, flickered to life. "Captain on deck," it said in a voice that was calm, cold, and lethal. For a second, I just stood there, letting the weight of that moment settle. The galaxy had buried her. I'd just dug up their worst nightmare. And I knew, the moment she moved under her own power again, the entire galaxy would come hunting for us. The Kuiper Belt drifted away behind us, just another cluster of ice and rock swallowed by distance. The moment Vanguard's drives lit in full burn, I knew there was no going back. The ship didn't hum the way modern fleets did. She roared, the reactor's deep thrum vibrating through the deck like the heartbeat of a predator finally awake after decades in a cage. We weren't supposed to be here. Not me. Not her. Not the crew that had gathered. Misfits, burnouts, men thrown out of uniform because they didn't know when to quit fighting. Half of them were veterans from wars the Council wanted erased from the history feeds. The other half were too young to know how many ways a man can die in the void. "Drive cores stable," came the voice from engineering. Harker, a big, scarred brute of a man who could strip a fusion chamber with his bare hands. "You've got 30% more output than the old log said she could do. We push her. She'll do more." "She'll have to," I said. We weren't flying anywhere near a major lane. I'd plotted a path through deep space, a crawl between gravity wells that would keep us hidden from long-range detection grids. Every ship over a certain mass left a trail. Drive signature, reactor bleed. But Vanguard's stealth systems were old-world brutal. They didn't hide you by faking your signature like modern stealth tech. They killed it outright. Her hull drank up sensor sweeps. Her drives could run so cold that to the galaxy, she'd look like just another lump of drifting rock. But that didn't mean we'd be invisible forever. 2 days into the run, the first ping came. Not on human channels, on an encrypted alien burst code, one of the Council's automated treaty monitors. The message was short, translated by Vanguard's AI into 6 words. "Unregistered human capital vessel detected. Identify." I didn't answer. The next ping came an hour later, this one sharper, flagged with an alert tone. "Violation of Treaty of Rigel. Identify or face interdiction." Harker was on the bridge with me then, his arms folded. "They know," he said. "Of course they know," I told him. "They always knew this day would come." The third ping wasn't a message. It was a mass signature, 3 alien interceptors cutting hard across the void to get in our path. The Torlan ships looked like blades of obsidian light, thin, fast, built for speed kills. Their weapons wouldn't scratch Vanguard's armor, but that didn't matter. They weren't here to fight. They were here to tag us with a translight beacon, something the rest of the galaxy could follow. "Orders?" my helmsman asked, a kid named Brant who had never seen a real fight. "Bring up the spinal railgun," I said. There was a pause. "Sir, it'll end them before they can send their signal," I cut in. When Vanguard's spinal gun charged, you could feel the deck plates tense. Magnetic fields built into a physical pressure that made the air feel thicker. The alien ships came in fast, juking in coordinated sweeps, confident in their speed. They never got within 1,000 clicks. One pull of the trigger, and the railgun spat a tungsten slug the size of a shuttle at near relativistic speed. The first interceptor turned into a flash of molten debris. The shockwave alone ripped the second one apart. The third tried to break away, but a secondary round caught it mid-spin, cracking it like a glass ornament in 0G. Silence after that. No pings. No more warnings, just the hum of Vanguard cooling her coils. "Interceptors eliminated," Brant said, his voice quieter than before. I looked at him. "Get used to it. They're not going to stop coming." And they didn't. By day 5, every faction in the galaxy knew we were moving. The feeds lit up with speculation. Grainy images of a massive ship in black armor, old war footage being dragged out of archives, alien politicians demanding sanctions against Earth for breaking the Rigel Treaty. Earth, of course, denied everything. Officially, I didn't exist. Vanguard didn't exist. But the outer colonies knew. The ones who'd been left undefended, bled dry by pirates, raiders, and unofficial alien fleets that operated in the shadows of Council law. They saw the feeds and started whispering. The black ship is back. On the 6th day, we intercepted a distress call. It came from Kepler Outpost 7, a mining station in the far fringe, human-owned but barely recognized by EarthGov. They'd been under attack for 36 hours by a fleet flying the crest of the Zerathi Dominion. The Zerathi were council members, supposedly bound by the same treaty that outlawed Vanguard. But treaties are just paper, and paper burns. I changed course without hesitation. Harker didn't need to ask why. "About time we put her teeth to use," he muttered. The trip took 16 hours. By the time we dropped out of Dark Run, the station's outer defenses were gone. 4 Zirathi cruisers orbited like vultures, their hulls dripping with the glow of freshly fired plasma cannons. Dozens of smaller raiders zipped between them, stripping what was left of the station's escort ships. "Range to target?" I asked. 200,000 clicks, Brandt said. "We can be on them in 6 minutes." "We'll be on them now," I replied. "Full burn. Bring all batteries online." The thing about Vanguard wasn't just her main gun. She was built for absolute war. 36 independent point defense turrets, missile bays the size of cargo haulers, kinetic flak projectors that could shred fighter wings before they even broke formation. The Zirathi picked us up on approach. I watched their formation stutter, confusion rippling through their ships. They'd seen the black armor, the angular profile. They knew. One of them broke calm silence. "Unidentified human vessel. Disengage immediately. This is Zirathi territory." I didn't bother responding. Instead, I opened fire. The first salvo of heavy rail slugs tore through their nearest cruiser, punching holes straight through its spine. The second volley wasn't even aimed. It was saturation fire, designed to force them to scatter. Fighters swarmed toward us, but Vanguard's point defense made them evaporate in bursts of fire. I ordered the missile bays to open. 24 warheads streaked out, each one carrying enough shaped plasma to cut a destroyer in half. The void lit up with detonations, shockwaves rippling through the Zirathi fleet. They tried to run after that. Most ships do when they realize they're not fighting a balanced engagement. They're surviving a slaughter. But I wasn't here to let them go. We chased down the last cruiser, disabled its drives, and boarded it. My Marines came back with captives, gaunt, scaled Zirathi officers who hissed curses through broken teeth. I didn't want prisoners. I wanted information. We found the beacon codes they'd been using to track vulnerable colonies, a whole list of human settlements scheduled for resource enforcement. In plain language, raids, slavery, stripping planets bare. Kepler Outpost sent a message as we left. No formal thanks, no speeches. Just a single sentence, broadcast on an open band. "The Black Ship is watching." Word would spread. It already was. But that victory came with a price. Within 24 hours, the Council declared Vanguard a Class Omega threat, the highest classification for weapons of mass destruction. They didn't just order her destruction. They authorized any fleet, from any species, to engage us on sight. The bounty they posted on my head was obscene, enough to buy a small moon. EarthGov didn't send help. They couldn't. Supporting me openly would mean war with every alien power in the galaxy. Officially, I was a rogue element, a terrorist. Unofficially, I think a lot of people back home were smiling when they saw the reports. The hunt began in earnest after that, tracking fleets, ambushes at jump points. I kept Vanguard in deep shadow, moving along routes no sane captain would use, hitting Zirathi and Torlan slavers wherever I could find them. Every time we struck, it sent the message louder. Treaties mean nothing without teeth. But I knew it couldn't last. Eventually, someone would send a fleet big enough, fast enough, and desperate enough to bring us down. That moment came on the edge of the Perseus Rift, when sensors picked up a formation so large it looked like a moving continent. The Council had stopped playing defense. They were coming for us. The Perseus Rift was a graveyard even before the Council sent their armada. A jagged expanse of shattered moons and asteroid belts, crisscrossed by debris from ancient wars, with gravity wells so unpredictable most captains wouldn't take a shuttle through it. It was the kind of place where ships vanished without firing a shot, and where I'd planned to vanish after Kepler outpost. But the Council had other ideas. We picked them up on long-range sweeps before we even reached the rift. 38 capital ships, over 100 escorts, thousands of fighters and drones. A combined fleet pulled from every major alien power. Torlan, Zirathi, Drenari, Vuthkel, even a handful of human-built frigates with their registry numbers stripped. The rift wasn't just a trap. It was a purge. "They're boxing us in," Brandt said, his eyes darting over the tactical display. "We've got blockade lines forming on 3 vectors and a fast assault wing cutting off the 4th. Harker leaned over the console, squinting. "That's not a pursuit force. That's an execution." He was right. No one sends that much steel for a chase. They'd come here for one purpose, to make sure Vanguard would never leave this sector. And they didn't care how many ships it cost them to do it. I stared at the display, at the slowly tightening noose. "What's our current position relative to the rift's dead zone?" 2 million clicks, Brandt replied. "We can reach it in 20 minutes at flank, but they'll intercept us before we get there." The dead zone, a swirling knot of gravity wells and rogue asteroids, a place where sensors went blind and drive signatures twisted into nothing. It was the only cover we had. But getting there meant running straight into the assault wing. The crew looked to me, waiting, expecting. I took a breath. "All hands to battle stations. Lock down all compartments. Charge the spinal gun to maximum and prepare the Harbinger protocol." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Harker swore under his breath. "You're actually going to use it," he said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Everyone on this ship knew what the Harbinger protocol was. It wasn't in any official manual, not anymore, but the whispers had lived on. It was the reason the Council had outlawed Vanguard. A weapon that didn't just kill ships. It erased fleets. We pushed the drives until the deck plates shuddered, the inertial dampeners whining in protest. The assault wing came in fast, 30 ships in a tight formation. Their lead vessels opened fire from extreme range, brilliant arcs of plasma cutting across the dark. Shields flared, the hits like hammer blows against Vanguard's skin. "Return fire," I ordered. The spinal railgun screamed, hurling a tungsten slug into the heart of their formation. The impact tore one of their destroyers clean in half, sending molten shards spinning into the void. Secondary batteries lit up, shredding their fighter screen before it could close. They didn't break. Aliens love to talk about their honor codes, their sacred battle traditions. But when the Council gave orders, those ideals turned to dust. They threw themselves at us, trading hull for position, desperate to slow us before we reached the dead zone. We cut through them like they weren't even there. 2 minutes to the rift. The blockade line ahead was moving to close the gap, a wall of ships so thick you could barely see the void between their hulls. That was when I gave the order. "Activate Harbinger." The AI's voice came through calm and cold. "Protocol Harbinger armed. Estimated lethality radius, 1.7 million kilometers." On the tactical display, a new icon appeared, a pulsing red sphere centered on Vanguard. Inside that sphere, everything that breathed, broadcast, or emitted heat would die. The Harbinger wasn't a bomb. It was worse. It was a localized space-time collapse, triggered by folding a warhead singularity core through a phased particle lattice. Every particle of matter within range would be ripped apart at the molecular level. Stripped of cohesion in less than a second. I'd only ever seen it fired once. There was no battlefield afterward. Just silence. The blockade's lead ships were hailing us now, screaming in 6 languages, demands to stand down, promises of mercy if we surrendered, warnings of annihilation if we didn't. I cut the channel. "Fire." The world went white. There was no sound in space, but the Harbinger's detonation was a pressure you could feel. A deep, bone-vibrating wave that made the ship shudder from bow to stern. The display lit with a wash of expanding red, swallowing the blockade line. Ships didn't explode. They just came apart. Armor plates separated from frames. Energy fields blinked out. Metal, flesh, and circuitry all drifted away from each other in perfect, horrific stillness. When the wave faded, the blockade was gone. 36 ships, thousands of lives, erased in less than a heartbeat. The rift swallowed us a minute later. Inside, it was chaos. Gravity pulled in jagged surges, sending debris tumbling past like thrown knives. Asteroids the size of cities drifted unpredictably, colliding in slow-motion cataclysms. Our shields groaned under the strain, the inertial dampeners struggling to keep pace with the violent course changes Brant threw us into. But the real danger wasn't the rift. It was what came after. The Harbinger had bought us breathing room. But it had also told the galaxy exactly what they feared was true. Vanguard still had her forbidden weapons, and her captain was willing to use them. Harker came up to the bridge hours later, his expression unreadable. "You know what they're going to do now," he said. "Send more ships," I replied. "Not just ships. They'll come for Earth. You just painted a target on every human world in the sector." He wasn't wrong. The Council wouldn't just chase us. They'd punish every place we'd ever called home, hoping to break us by breaking what we fought for. That was the way they'd always fought their wars. Not in the open, but through fear. I looked out at the drifting stones of the rift, the cold light of distant stars painting Vanguard's hull in silver. "They want to make an example of me," I said. "Fine. I'll give them one." When we emerged from the far side of the rift, we were already running dark, drives cold, emissions masked, no comm traffic. The galaxy thought we'd be limping after that fight. They thought wrong. We went hunting. Every beacon code we'd taken from the Zarathi cruiser became a target. Slave pens, resource raiders, pirate lords who'd been working under the Council's shadow for years. One by one, we burned them. We didn't just kill the ships. We dismantled their networks. And with each strike, Vanguard's legend grew. The feed started calling me the Ghost Captain. The alien channels called me worse. The Butcher of Rigel, the Treaty Breaker, the human who brings silence. The bounty doubled, then tripled. Mercenaries came for us in packs. None of them made it home. But for every victory, the noose drew tighter. 3 weeks after Perseus, we intercepted a Council transmission. It wasn't directed at us. It was to their fleets, a single directive. Target Earth. Make the humans choose. That was the moment I knew the war had already begun. The transmission looped on the holotank for the 4th time, the Council's cold voice like a blade dragged slowly over bone. Target Earth. Make the humans choose. It wasn't posturing. It wasn't an idle threat. It was war. The bridge was silent, the crew staring at the glowing display of our homeworld, a pale blue dot in the black. Even Brant, the kid who usually couldn't keep his mouth shut, was locked in place, his hands gripping the helm like he could squeeze the message out of existence. Harker broke the silence first. They'll hit the colonies on the way, cut off supplies, force a surrender before Earth even sees them coming. I shook my head. No, this isn't a siege. It's punishment. They'll burn a path straight to Earth just to make an example out of us. The AI's voice, cool and detached, cut through the tension. Council fleet movement detected. Multiple vectors originating from Torlan and Drenari space. Estimated time to Sol system, 94 hours. 94 hours. Less than 4 days before the biggest fleet in galactic history hit the cradle of humanity. We had one ship. One ship. And she was the most dangerous warship ever built. But there was a problem. The Council wouldn't come straight in. They'd bring enough ships to keep Vanguard busy in the outer system while their main force slipped through to Earth. Even if we shredded their first wave, they'd still get through. That meant we couldn't meet them head-on. We had to break them before they reached Sol, and that meant hitting them where they were weakest. "Plot an intercept," I told Brant. "Somewhere between Neptune and the Kuiper Belt. We'll hit the lead elements before they regroup." The crew scattered to their stations. Harker stayed beside me, his voice low. "You know they'll send everything after us the second we fire." "That's the point," I said. "If they're chasing us, they're not hitting Earth." The run to intercept took 18 hours. We used the rift's shadow to mask our drive signature, drifting between rogue asteroids until we were close enough to strike. When the enemy fleet came into range, it was like watching a storm crawl across the void, hundreds of ships in tight formation, their shields glowing faintly like the shimmer of heat on metal. I'd fought fleets before. I'd seen the organized chaos of battle, the swirling dance of offense and defense. This wasn't like that. This was a wall of firepower moving with one purpose: extermination. "Contacts are locking weapons," Brant said, tension cracking his voice. "Fire at will," I ordered. Vanguard came alive. The spinal gun roared, hurling tungsten death into the nearest battleship. The shot tore through its shields like paper, splitting the hull in half with a flash of vaporized metal. Point defense turrets lit the void with streams of autocannon fire, shredding incoming fighters before they could even form attack runs. Missiles screamed from the launch bays, their drives burning bright before they buried themselves into the flanks of enemy destroyers. The resulting detonations shook the bridge, a ripple of light reflecting off the armor. The aliens responded with everything they had. Plasma lances stabbed through the dark, burning against our shields. Kinetic slugs slammed into our armor, sending shockwaves through the hull. Vanguard didn't flinch. She wasn't built to trade blows. She was built to end fights. We punched through their front line like a spear through flesh, the gap we carved wide enough to split their formation. Smaller ships broke off to flank us, but our flak projectors turned them to shrapnel before they could close. Harker's voice came over the comm. "Reactor holding at 98%. We can keep this up for another 20 minutes before we have to cool the coils." 20 minutes is all we'll need," I said. But it wasn't. The Council had been expecting us. From the far side of the formation, a new wave surged forward. 6 dreadnoughts, each one nearly the size of Vanguard, their hulls bristling with weapons. And at the center of their formation, a ship I'd never seen before. It was black. Not painted, not stealth-coated, black like it swallowed light. No shield shimmer, no drive signature. It moved with a smoothness that made my skin crawl, like it wasn't bound by the same laws of motion as everything else in the void. The AI's voice was quieter than usual. "Unidentified vessel detected. Configuration unknown. Power output exceeds recorded maximums." The lead dreadnoughts opened fire in unison. Beams of white-hot plasma hammered our shields, draining them faster than we could cycle power. Armor plating glowed red, then white. Warning klaxons echoed through the bridge. "Bring up the Harbinger," I said. There was a pause. Harker turned toward me. "You use it here. You'll hit half the asteroid field. We won't have cover to run." I looked at the display, at the wall of enemy ships closing in, at the black vessel drifting behind them like a predator watching its prey weaken. "Do it," I said. The Harbinger charged, the air thick with static. The dreadnoughts pressed closer, confident in their numbers. Then the void went white again. 3 of the dreadnoughts vanished in the wave, their hulks breaking apart in silent disintegration. The others staggered, shields flaring, hulls scarred, but they held. And through the debris came the black ship, untouched. It fired once, a thin beam, barely visible. No sound, no flash. Just impact, a pinpoint hit against our shields that bypassed every layer of defense. The ship shuddered as systems went offline in cascading failure. Displays flickered, the lights dimmed. "Shields down!" Brandt shouted. "They've bypassed the grid." The AI's tone sharpened. "Unknown weapon signature. Molecular destabilization detected. Hull integrity compromised on decks 3 through 7. They had a weapon like the Harbinger, but precise. Surgical. And they were using it to peel us apart. Piece by piece. "Evasive!" I barked. "Get us into the asteroid field!" Brandt threw us into a hard burn, the inertial dampeners whining as Vanguard dove between tumbling rocks the size of cities. The enemy pursued, their weapons carving chunks out of the asteroids in showers of molten stone. The black ship didn't follow. It hung back, watching, waiting. It knew where we were going. We lost them in the densest part of the field, but it wasn't a victory. Damage reports streamed in. Hull breaches, secondary systems offline, power fluctuations in the forward coils. Harker's voice was grim over the comm. "She's holding together, but if that black bastard hits us again, we won't be." I stood at the viewport, watching the debris drift past, knowing the Council fleet was regrouping outside. They'd split their forces now, one to keep us boxed in, the other to keep pressing toward Earth. The rift trick wouldn't work twice. That left one choice. "We're going to Earth," I said. Harker looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "You said yourself we can't take the whole fleet head on." "We won't," I cut in. "We'll take the black ship." Silence. The crew stared at me like they weren't sure they'd heard right. "They're not afraid of Vanguard anymore," I continued. "Not if they've got that thing. But if we take it out, if we prove nothing in this galaxy can match us, they'll think twice before pushing the rest of the way." It wasn't a plan built on hope. It was built on fear, their fear, the same fear that had made them bury Vanguard in the first place. We turned for Sewell. The chase would be brutal, the fight worse. But I'd made my choice the day I found her rusting in that dock. If they wanted Earth, they'd have to kill me first. We caught sight of the black ship at the edge of Saturn's rings. It was waiting for us. No other Council ships in range, no escorts, just that single, light-swallowing hull drifting above the shimmering ice and rock like a blade poised above a throat. "They want a duel," Harker said, standing beside me at the viewport. I shook my head. "They want a kill they can broadcast to every system in the galaxy." The AI chimed in, its voice sharper than usual. "Target vessel's mass is 90% of Vanguard. Energy output remains anomalous. Weapon systems unclassified. Caution advised." Caution, as if that word had any meaning here. We were already past the point of turning back. Brandt kept our burn steady, closing the gap without pushing the drives into overheat. The black ship didn't move, didn't posture, didn't fire. It just watched. Harker leaned over the tactical console, scanning its silhouette. "That hull configuration, it's human." The words hung in the air. "That's impossible," Brandt said. Harker didn't look up. "So was Vanguard once." The idea settled into my gut like a lump of lead. The Council didn't design ships like this. They built fleets, not predators. If this was human work, it meant something far worse. Someone, somewhere, had taken what made Vanguard feared and perfected it, and they'd given it to the enemy. "Range?" I asked. 5,000 clicks, Brandt replied. "Bring all guns online, lock missile bays, spinal gun at full charge." The black ship moved. Not much, just a slow pivot, its prow aligning with ours, but it was enough to make my teeth clench. "Targeting solution acquired," the AI said. "Fire." The railgun screamed, the tungsten slug tearing across the void faster than sight. The impact should have been catastrophic, shields shattering, hull buckling, but instead the slug vanished into nothing. "Impact," Absorbed, Brant said, disbelief cracking his voice. The black ship fired. A single lance of pale blue light tore from its prow. Not wide, not blazing, a needle of energy, precise and cold. It struck Vanguard's forward quarter, and the ship bucked like it had been punched by a god. Shields collapsing on sections 1 through 4, the AI warned. Hull molecular stability compromised. The wound it left wasn't like normal battle damage. There was no molten metal, no explosive venting, just absence. Armor, bulkheads, wiring, all gone, replaced by a clean-edged void. Evasive, I barked. Brant threw the helm hard to port, and Vanguard rolled into the ring plane. Ice and rock whipped past us in a glittering storm as our point defense cannons shredded anything too big to dodge. The black ship followed, gliding through the debris without firing another shot. "Harker, what the hell is that weapon?" He was already pulling up old design files, schematics of systems I'd never seen outside Black Site archives. "It's a singularity shearer. Uses a microfold generator to destabilize matter at the quantum level. No known countermeasure, unless you overload its absorption field with simultaneous impacts from multiple vectors. Hit it with everything we've got in the same instant, and maybe it chokes." Maybe. Not exactly comforting. We used the rings as cover, weaving between dense ice clusters while the crew prepped the strike. Missile targeting relays synced with railgun timing. Coil guns cycled through rapid-fire calibrations. The AI coordinated a perfect convergence window, 2 seconds where every weapon could hit the same point. "Window ready in 60 seconds, the AI said. The black ship was closing fast now, matching every twist we made through the debris. It didn't fire again. It didn't need to. It was letting us burn power, watching, waiting for the moment we slipped. 30 seconds, the AI counted. The ship shuddered as a fragment the size of a shuttle clipped our aft shields. Warning lights flared. Harker swore. 10 seconds. We broke from the rings into open void, the black ship right behind us. 3, 2, 1, fire. Every weapon Vanguard had roared at once. Rail slugs, plasma torpedoes, missile salvos, all converging on the same point just off the black ship's starboard flank. For a heartbeat, it worked. The hull shimmered, distortion rippling like heat haze. The absorption field flickered. "Now!" I yelled. "Spinal gun overcharge!" The AI didn't question. The second slug hit while the field was still collapsing. This time there was impact, armor crumpling inward, shards of obsidian-hued plating spiraling away into the dark. The black ship staggered, its smooth glide breaking for the first time. And then it screamed. Not in sound, in comms. A burst of raw, unencoded signal poured into every frequency at once, a wordless howl of data that made my skin crawl. The lights on the bridge flickered, the AI's voice stuttering. "System intrusion detected. Countermeasures failing." "They're hacking us," Harker shouted. "Shut them out," I ordered. "It's not code," the AI said, its tone different, slower. "It's language, old, very old." The black ship's comm burst stopped as abruptly as it started. Then it was moving again, faster now, burning toward us with an aggression it hadn't shown before. "Helm, bring us under its belly," I barked. Brant dove Vanguard under the enemy hull, close enough that the sensor arrays could scrape its surface detail. Up close, the black armor wasn't smooth. It was engraved. Not alien glyphs. Not council sigils. Human script. Harker's voice was low, almost reverent. "This ship was built at Titan Yard, same as Vanguard." That was all I needed to hear. Whoever had made it hadn't just stolen our designs, they'd continued them. The Council didn't outlaw Vanguard because she was dangerous. They outlawed her because they wanted her for themselves. We hammered its underside with close-range fire, trying to tear deeper into that damaged flank. The black ship retaliated with point-blank shearer strikes, each one carving away chunks of our armor like flesh from bone. "Shields at 20%, the AI warned. "Hull breaches on deck 7 and 9. We weren't going to win trading blows. "Harker, can we spike the Harbinger without a full charge?" He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "At this range? We'll kill both ships." I glanced at the tactical readout. Earth still days away from the Council fleet. If this thing survived, there'd be nothing left to defend. "Do it!" The Harbinger began to charge, the reactor's deep thrum shaking the deck. The black ship must have recognized the energy build. It broke off, trying to pull distance. We stayed glued to its flank, matching every maneuver, bleeding speed to keep it in the blast radius. "Charge at 80%, the AI said. "Detonation will occur in 15 seconds. The black ship fired its shearer again, tearing another gouge from our hull. Atmosphere vented in a silver spray. I could feel the ship's heartbeat faltering beneath my boots. 95%. The black ship surged forward, burning hard to escape. I pushed Vanguard's drives past safety limits, the air stinking of ozone and burning insulation. 100%. Fire. The Harbinger detonated. There was no blinding flash this time, no expanding wave of light. Just absence. The space between us and the black ship became a hole, pulling in everything within reach. Armor twisted, frames bent inward, and the black ship's hull began to fold into itself. Its scream came again over comms, but weaker now, fractured. Then it was gone. Not destroyed, erased, no debris. No drifting wreckage, just silence. We'd won, if you could call it that. Damage reports flooded in. Half the ship's systems were crippled, power distribution in chaos, structural integrity at 60%. We'd barely be able to limp to Earth, and the Council fleet was still coming. But the black ship was gone. I stood at the viewport, staring into the void where it had been, and I realized something. The Council hadn't sent that ship to kill Vanguard. They'd sent it to test her. We limped toward Earth like a wounded predator, still dangerous but bleeding in the water. The Harbinger strike had gutted the black ship, but the cost had been brutal. Hull plating along our port side was gone, exposing scorched ribs and twisted beams. Reactor output was down to 60%. The forward spinal coils needed a full replacement cycle, and half our point defense batteries were either melted or jammed. On the bridge, the lights were dimmed to save power. The crew moved slower now, not because they were tired, but because the reality had set in. We'd killed the Council's flagship, but the rest of their armada was still on course for Earth. The AI's voice came through with its usual icy calm. Estimated time to Sol system at current speed, 49 hours. 49 hours. And the enemy would arrive in 52. That meant one thing. We'd get there first, but barely. Harker came up from engineering, looking like he'd aged 10 years since the fight. "We've patched the worst of it, but the drive coils won't hold under combat thrust. If we push too hard, we'll blow out the entire housing." "How much can they take?" I asked. "Enough to get us there, not enough to fight at full burn once we arrive." He didn't have to say the rest. We'd be outnumbered, outgunned, and too slow to run. I leaned against the console, looking at the tactical projection. "Then we don't fight them at full burn. We fight them from a position they can't avoid." Harker's brow furrowed. "You've got something in mind?" "Yeah," I said. "We make them come to us. On our terms." For most of the trip, the crew stayed quiet. We all knew the odds. Every man aboard Vanguard was here because he'd been thrown away by some chain of command, dishonored, demoted, discharged, but none of us had been stupid enough to believe this was a suicide run. Until now. Brandt finally broke the silence on the bridge. "Sir, Even if we get there first, even if we hit them hard, EarthGov's not going to let us dock. You know that, right? I didn't answer. He pressed on. They called you a rogue. They put a bounty on you the same day the Council did. The second we show up in Sol, every EarthGov ship will be aiming at us just like the aliens. He wasn't wrong. The political reality hadn't changed just because we'd saved Kepler Outpost or destroyed the Black Ship. EarthGov still needed the Council's trade, its treaties, its protection, and they weren't going to risk it for a disgraced captain and a warship that officially didn't exist. Harker looked at me. If you've got a plan for that, now's the time to share it. I pulled up the comm logs. We're not going to EarthGov. We're going to Mars orbit, the old orbital yards. Brant frowned. Those yards have been mothballed for 20 years. Exactly, I said. They've still got deep repair bays big enough for Vanguard, and they're off the main defense grid. We can get in without being shot to pieces by our own people. 20 hours later, we dropped out of Dark Run at Mars. The orbital yards hung above the rust-colored planet like broken ribs in the sky. Skeletal frames of metal, rusting solar arrays, and half-built freighters that would never launch. No traffic, no patrols, just silence. We slid into the shadow of Bay 7, using Vanguard's maneuvering thrusters to dock without lighting the drives. The mag clamps engaged with a deep metallic thud. Harker and a dozen crew went EVA immediately, sealing breaches in the hull with quick hardening plating. Others stripped damaged weapon systems for parts. The AI worked through the remaining functional arrays, prioritizing the ones that could still punch through a battleship's shields. But the repairs weren't what worried me. The comm ping came 6 hours into the work. Encrypted EarthGov codes routed through the old yard's comm relay. Harker patched it through to the bridge. The hollow flared to life, and Admiral Yoren's face appeared, a man I'd once served under back before my court-martial. His voice was just as cold as I remembered. Captain, or should I say fugitive, you've made quite the mess. The Council is displeased. They're coming for Earth, I said. You already know that. His eyes narrowed. We're aware of Council fleet movements. What you fail to understand is that your interference has provoked them. The Black Ship was not an attack craft. It was a demonstration platform. Your destruction of it has accelerated hostilities. I laughed, bitter. So the plan was to roll over and let them walk into Sol? That's your defense strategy? He didn't flinch. The plan was diplomacy. And now, thanks to you, that is no longer an option. EarthGov's priority is to salvage what can be salvaged, including Vanguard. You will stand down and prepare for immediate transfer of command. Harker's fists clenched at his sides. Like hell! Yoren's gaze shifted to him briefly, then back to me. This is not a negotiation. If you resist, you will be fired upon by our own defense forces. You will not make it to Earth's orbit alive. The comm cut. Harker was the first to speak. You believe him? Yeah, I said. But it doesn't matter. They're not getting this ship. Not while I'm breathing. The truth was worse. Yoren wasn't bluffing because he didn't have to. The Council might be sending their armada, but EarthGov would still follow their playbook. Eliminate any human asset that threatened diplomatic stability, even if that asset was the only thing that could save them. That meant we'd be fighting two enemies in Sol, alien and human. By the time the repairs were as close to done as we could manage, the crew knew the stakes. Brant tried to keep the bridge chatter light, but even he couldn't hide the edge in his voice. Everyone else just worked in silence, checking and rechecking systems like men sharpening knives they knew they'd only get to swing once. The AI's voice came through as we cleared Mars orbit. Council fleet arrival in 31 hours, EarthGov defense fleet deploying to geostationary intercept positions. Translation. They were setting up to stop us before the aliens even got there. We stayed dark as long as we could, sliding through the shadow of Jupiter before lighting the drives and making our burn for Sool. The comm traffic between EarthGov ships spiked the second we hit their long-range sensors. Scrambled orders, priority alerts, ships breaking formation to cut us off. They came in fast, 5 heavy cruisers, all human-built, all armed for fleet defense. Their commander opened a channel before they were even in firing range. Unidentified vessel. You are violating Earth Defense Perimeter protocols. Reduce speed and prepare for boarding. Failure to comply will result in lethal force. I didn't answer. I just gave Brant the order. Full burn. Evasive pattern Delta 9. The cruisers moved to intercept. The first volley of kinetic fire rattled our shields, but our point defense batteries chewed through most of it before impact. We returned fire with precision shots, not enough to destroy them, but enough to cripple their drives and leave them drifting. Harker called it over comms. 3 down, 2 still on our tail. Keep them there, I said. They'll make good cover when the council arrives. It was a brutal run the rest of the way in. Every hour, more defense ships joined the chase. We didn't engage unless we had to, just kept bleeding speed in short bursts to draw them in tighter behind us. The closer they got, the less likely EarthGov would be to fire on us outright, not with half their fleet tangled up trying to match our vector. We broke into Earth orbit 26 hours later, and the sight that greeted us made my chest tighten. The Council fleet was already here. They hadn't waited for the Armada. They'd sent an advance strike group, 40 ships strong, to soften the defenses before the main fleet arrived. The battle had already started. Flashes of weapons fire lit the black above Earth like distant lightning. We didn't slow down. Target their lead cruiser, I ordered. Put us between them and Earth's atmosphere. Brant threw Vanguard into the fight, diving straight through the Council formation. The first cruiser we hit didn't even get a shot off. The spinal railgun tore through its bridge in a single pass. Missiles screamed past us, slamming into alien destroyers as our secondary batteries shredded their fighter wings. But the real fight was still ahead. The Council's dreadnoughts were moving into position, their weapons cycling for a coordinated strike. The defense grid was faltering, and EarthGov ships were too busy chasing us to form a proper counterline. We had minutes before the aliens broke through. Get ready, I told the crew. We hold them here or there's nothing left to hold. The void above Earth was chaos. Weapons fire crisscrossed the black, bursts of white and blue tearing through the dark like lightning storms frozen in vacuum. Ships darted and twisted in the dance of destruction. Alien dreadnoughts, human cruisers, swarms of fighters and drones. And in the middle of it, Vanguard cut a path like a cleaver through bone. We dove straight into the Council's advance group. The first alien destroyer exploded under a railgun slug before it could even orient toward us. Fighters swarmed from its wreckage, but our point defense arrays erased them in seconds. The AI's voice was steady over the storm. Targets eliminated, 8. New hostiles inbound, 14. Brant threw us into a hard roll, lining up the spinal gun on a Zerathi cruiser that was hammering an EarthGov frigate from behind. One shot split it apart mid-volley, the debris smashing into another alien vessel and taking it out in the chain reaction. 2 for 1, Brant said through gritted teeth. The frigate we'd saved didn't even acknowledge us. Instead, it pulled a hard turn, straight toward us. They're locking weapons, Harker snapped. I swore under my breath. Of course they are. The frigate fired, not on the alien dreadnought ahead of it, but on us. The kinetic slugs slammed into our shields, jolting the ship. Confirmed EarthGov ID, the AI reported coldly. Captain, their targeting profile matches your registry. They're trying to take us out mid-battle, Harker said. Then we use them, I said. Put them between us and the dreadnoughts. They want to play politics in the middle of a war, fine. They can eat council fire for it. Brant angled Vanguard hard, slipping just under the frigate's belly. Alien plasma lances tracked us, caught the frigate broadside, and blew it open like a tin can. We rode the explosion's shockwave straight into the flank of the lead dreadnought. The dreadnought loomed ahead, a wall of alien steel bristling with guns. Its shield fields pulsing as they absorbed a dozen incoming hits. Our railgun hammered it in rapid succession, each slug smashing deeper into the same point until the shields flickered, failed, and the final round punched through the hull. The dreadnought's core went critical, a sun-bright flare lighting the void as we peeled away. But every kill brought more heat. Alien cruisers were moving to box us in, EarthGov ships still chasing our wake instead of helping. The AI cut in again. Council reinforcements inbound. Estimated time to arrival, 7 minutes. Main armada. This was the advance group. Just 40 ships. The real fleet was still coming. Harker leaned over my shoulder. If we're here when they drop in, we're dead. Not if we break them first, I said. We turned Vanguard towards the center of the Council formation. The Harbinger was offline. The last battle had drained too much from the reactor to risk charging it again. That left brute force. Brandt skimmed us under an alien carrier, close enough to see its hangar bays vomiting fighters into the black. Our underside batteries opened up, shredding them before they could even clear the launch rails. A missile spread followed, the warheads digging into the carrier's spine before tearing it apart in a silent blossom of fire. But the Council was adapting. Ships began to move in coordinated patterns, cutting off our escape vectors, forcing us toward the densest cluster of their guns. "They're hurting us," Harker warned. "Then we go where they want us," I said. The alien formation funneled us toward the largest dreadnought in the group. A Torlan warship twice Vanguard's size, its prow bristling with plasma cannons. The moment we were in range, it fired. The first salvo ripped into our shields, draining them to 30% in seconds. The second volley smashed into our armor, and the bridge shook as hull plates warped under the impact. "Shields failing," the AI called. "Hull breach on deck 9. We were seconds from being gutted. "Helm, straight at them," I ordered. Brandt hesitated. "Sir." "Do it!" We burned straight toward the dreadnought's prow, weaving between its incoming fire. At the last second, I ordered a hard starboard roll. Vanguard skimmed its hull, our broadside batteries hammering every exposed weapons array we passed. The dreadnought twisted to follow, but it was too big, too slow. We cut around its flank and tore through its engines with concentrated railgun fire. The massive ship drifted, dead in the void, blocking the line of sight of 3 alien cruisers behind it. That bought us a moment, but only a moment. The comms lit with a new transmission. Admiral Yoren's face appeared, his expression tight. "Captain, stand down immediately. You are interfering with coordinated defense operations." I almost laughed. "Your coordinated defense is losing. You want to win this fight, you get your ships in line with mine. You are not in command here. No, I'm the one actually killing the enemy while you're still deciding whether to point your guns at them or me." His jaw tightened. "You're a rogue element, a dangerous liability, and when this is over, you will answer for—" The channel cut as an alien beam sliced between us, vaporizing an EarthGov cruiser that had moved to intercept us. Harker smirked grimly. "Looks like the Council's saving us the trouble of that conversation." The alien advance group was breaking, not because they'd lost too many ships, but because Vanguard was punching holes in their formation faster than they could close them. The AI confirmed it. "Enemy cohesion degraded by 30%. Suggest exploitation of gap at vector 6-4 by 2-9. "Do it," I said. Brandt swung us into the gap, the railgun hammering anything that moved. Missiles screamed past us toward targets already reeling from other impacts. Alien return fire was sporadic now, scattered and panicked. We cut down another destroyer, crippled a cruiser, and sent a carrier spinning into the atmosphere to burn up over the Pacific. That was when the Armada arrived. The void rippled with hundreds of trans-light breaches, each one spilling out another warship. The black between Earth and the Moon turned into a wall of alien steel. The advance group we'd been fighting was nothing compared to this. Reinforcement count, 206 vessels, the AI said flatly. The EarthGov fleet reformed instantly, not to fight alongside us, but to block our path. They're going to leave us out here, Harker said. They're going to let the Council take us, I corrected. And when they do, they'll pretend it was a tactical necessity. The Council ships advanced. The EarthGov wall behind us closed. For the first time in my life, I felt the cold certainty of checkmate, until the comms crackled with a new voice. Black Ship, this is Kepler Outpost 7. We're here to return the favor. The void around the Armada lit up with the flare of translight breaches, human ships, but not EarthGov, old colony defense frigates, converted freighters with guns welded to their hulls, mining barges retooled into missile platforms. Every outer colony we'd defended in the past months had come. The AI's voice didn't waver. But there was something almost warm in it. Friendly reinforcements, 87 vessels. The colonies hit the Council's flank like a hammer, tearing into ships that had been focused on EarthGov's neat defensive wall. Alien formations splintered. For the first time, I saw the Armada falter. We dove into the chaos. Vanguard didn't lead the charge this time. We was the charge, punching straight into the heart of the Armada, guns roaring, missiles carving burning trails through alien hulls. The bridge shook with every hit, damage alarms screamed, but we kept going. We didn't have to win the war here. We just had to make sure the Council didn't break through. By the time the dust cleared, the alien fleet was in full retreat, burning for translight. Earth still hung below us, untouched. But victory wasn't what filled the air on the bridge. It was the silence that came after. The knowledge that EarthGov had been ready to let us die and would likely call the win their own. Harker turned to me. What now? I looked out at the scattered wreckage of the greatest battle humanity had ever fought. Now, I said, we make sure they never forget who saved them, whether they like it or not. The debris field over Earth stretched for thousands of kilometers. Twisted alien hulls, shattered human cruisers, the drifting carcasses of fighters that would never return to their hangars. The battle was over, but the war, the real war, was just beginning. EarthGov hailed us before the last of the alien wreckage had even stopped burning in the atmosphere. The message came on an open channel, the voice of Admiral Yoren, smooth and calculated. To all vessels in Sol orbit, this is Admiral Yoren. The Council fleet has been repelled thanks to the coordinated efforts of Earth Defense Command. We are securing the battle space. All non-military ships are ordered to withdraw immediately. No mention of Vanguard. No mention of the Black Ship we'd destroyed. The alien dreadnoughts we'd gutted. The colony fleets that had come to our aid when EarthGov wouldn't. Harker leaned over the console, his jaw tight. Coordinated efforts, my ass. Brant slammed a fist against the arm of his chair. We lose half our armor, bleed reactors dry, and they don't even say our name. I wasn't surprised. I'd expected this. EarthGov couldn't afford to let the truth get out. That the most feared warship in human history had returned. That a single rogue captain had done what their entire navy couldn't. They'd spin it as their victory, take the credit, and hope the colonies forgot who'd really kept the Council's fire off their homes. The colonies wouldn't forget. Within hours, the encrypted messages started pouring in. Kepler Outpost 7, Ceres Mining Guild, the Epsilon Frontier Authority. Small settlements on the fringe of known space that EarthGov never visited unless they needed something. The messages all said the same thing. We saw what you did. We stand with you. The AI compiled the list. 87 vessels had fought alongside us at Earth. By the time the last message came in, the number had grown to 112. Not a fleet by EarthGov standards, but enough to make the Council think twice about pushing into fringe space again. Harker stood beside me on the bridge, watching the list grow. You realize this is the start of something bigger. Yeah, I said. And EarthGov's going to see it as a threat. They made their move 20 hours later. A formation of EarthGov destroyers approached Vanguard, their weapons cold, but their intent obvious. Yoren's voice came over a tight beam comm. Captain, you will surrender your vessel immediately. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. The political situation is fragile. We cannot have you jeopardizing the peace talks. I almost laughed. Peace talks? The Council just tried to burn Earth to ash. And yet they will meet with us tomorrow, Yoren replied, because they know Earth can be reasoned with. You are a symbol of defiance. They will not negotiate as long as you remain in play. Good, I said. Maybe they shouldn't. They tried to board us. The destroyers moved in with grapples extended, shuttles prepped for forced entry. The colonies had been watching, and they didn't wait for my order. Translight breaches flared around Vanguard as half a dozen colony warships dropped in, guns hot. The EarthGov destroyers pulled back immediately, not because they were afraid of a fight, but because they knew how it would look on the feeds if they fired on fellow humans, while the alien wreckage was still drifting overhead. The standoff lasted 6 tense minutes before Yoren's voice came through again, brittle with frustration. You're making a mistake, Captain. The Council won't stop. And without Earth's support, neither will we. You had your chance to fight alongside us, I said. You chose politics over survival. We'll handle the rest without you. The colonies didn't just escort us out of Sol, they followed. All the way to the edge of the system, then beyond. We became a moving shadow on the edge of known space, a fleet without a flag, bound together by one truth. None of us would kneel to the Council again, but it wasn't just about them anymore. The destruction of the Black Ship had stirred something in the galaxy. The Council had tasted fear, real fear, for the first time in decades. And fear makes predators cautious, or it makes them desperate. Harker said what we were all thinking as we drifted in dark, run through the Oort cloud. They'll build another one, maybe 10. They can't let what happened here stand. I nodded. Then we'll be ready. In the weeks that followed, we moved like ghosts. We struck at slaver convoys, dismantled pirate fleets, hit Council supply lines in systems they thought were safe. Every attack left the same message burned into their comboys. The Black Ship is watching. The galaxy started whispering again, just like they had in the old war. But now the whispers weren't just about Vanguard. They were about the fleet that followed her, about the colonies that stood against both the Council and EarthGov. It wasn't a rebellion. Not yet. But it was a spark. One night, if you can call anything in deep space a night, I stood alone on the observation deck, watching a dying star flicker in the distance. The AI broke the silence. Captain, your personal file has been updated on EarthGov networks. Status, enemy of the state. I smirked. Took them long enough. There is more, the AI said. Your bounty has increased by 40%. The Council has matched the EarthGov figure. So I'm worth more than most planets now, I said. Good to know. Harker joined me, holding 2 mugs of recycled coffee. He handed me one and stared out at the star with me for a long while before speaking. You know this doesn't end, right? Not until one side's dead. EarthGov, the Council, hell, maybe us too. I know. And you're okay with that? I took a slow sip, the bitter taste grounding me. I didn't pull Vanguard out of the grave to hand her back. If this is the fight we've got left, then we make it count. A comm ping interrupted us. Encrypted colony code. The message was short, text only. Target, Council Weapons Depot. Location, classified relay. Request Black Ship intervention. Harker looked at me. We just finished patching the holes from the last fight. I smiled faintly. Then let's go make some new ones. As the drives spun up, I took one last look at the starfield, at the dark expanse stretching forever ahead. Somewhere out there, the Council was already building their next black ship. Somewhere, EarthGov was deciding which colony to sacrifice next in the name of stability. And somewhere, in the back of my mind, I knew there'd be a day when all of it, the colonies, the Council, the black ship, came to a head in one final battle. But that day wasn't today. Today belonged to us. Vanguard slid into the void, her hull still scarred but her guns ready. The fleet fell in behind her, a silent promise in their wake. We weren't fighting for Earth. We weren't fighting for the colonies. We were fighting because no one else would. And until the last light in the galaxy went out, the black ship would be watching.